Hello, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. I'm jumping on to talk about what is going on with the Las Vegas housing market. I've got Vegas real estate updates, falling prices, and what it means to you. That's definitely, am I working here? All right. That's definitely what I'm going to go over and more because it's been a busy day for news out there that would affect how the market is going to be for you, whether you're a seller or buyer. You should know this information. Let me jump right in by letting you know that when it comes to the housing market and being a seller right now, you need to be aware that prices certainly are falling when it comes to listing prices. Okay. Sellers are decreasing their prices like crazy. Like on the 7 day average, when I look at the 7 day average, it is nearly 1,000 every 7 days that are decreasing their prices. And then when I take a look at why, I realize, oh, there's more inventory coming on. As I spoke of last week, I made big note of the fact that if I'm a seller, I wouldn't want to play around right now. I'd want to price my property right and right to sell because I don't know what's ahead. And when I look at what's happening now, it's a strange, it's just different than last several springs that we've had, right? So we're getting inventory and it's not coming up back off. That to me is a problem if I'm a seller because I don't know if that's going to keep piling up. And I've got an update for you today as far as now 7 days later, what's happened. But is it going to keep piling up? And then am I going to have more competition? Are more of my neighbors going to be on market? And then I'm not going to be able to sell my property for even, am I going to lose money each week at this point? That is a concern. Um, I'm not saying that it's dropping like a rock, but my goodness, when I see what's happening, we got 150 new properties from last week that are on the 7 day average. It was at nearly 9,100 last week, and now we've gone to 9242. Actually, it was up yesterday, 9260, but because today is Monday, we got some closings, and it went down just slightly. But I'm guessing, and I'm going to keep watching that throughout the week, it will rise inventory a little bit more. We'll see. Maybe we're going to reach a precipice. But as we approach that 10,000 properties on the market mark, I should say, that's where we just don't have enough buyer activity. And I do think that we would see more than a softening at that point. You get over 10,000 properties in the market and you're only pulling off what we've been pulling off as far as how much volume is out there, then it's going to, you're going to see that sellers are going to get stressed. They're going to see more time on market, and that inventory would then hang over and more sellers would be coming on. That could be, you could start to see where that's a problem. And then if you add in other things that are starting to not look so bright on the economy side, then that creates a whirlwind. Like today, when I woke up and realized the stock market, when I woke up and then later looked at the news and saw the stock market was being crushed. I definitely have to talk about that because that is something that is directly related, in my opinion, to the real estate market. When the stock market is why the stock market is going down in particular. And the first round of all these drops was because Trump decided to, the president decided to do these tariffs, and that they're scariffs, really. They have scared the lights out of people, and that certainly the stock market didn't like it, and it went down, and then it went back up a little bit, and now it's been on a downward trend for a little bit. I don't know all the ins and outs to why the stock market is doing that, but today I can tell you what the headlines say and my thoughts on that, which is that Trump wants rate reductions from the Fed. He wants those rate reductions. Okay. Because if you think about it, what would keep the overall housing market, propped up and maybe get more people in there and suck some inventory off? Well, lower rates would do that right away. I mean, it really would. But is that also one reason, maybe a big reason, why the Fed doesn't want to lower the rates after they've been pulling them down and keeping them down, or I mean, pulling them up and keeping them up for as long as they have been? Because they want to get they want to get inflation under control. Here's the argument. I'll make the argument. Trump's saying inflation's under control. Okay, he's saying that we are now going down and we're not inflating anymore. The Fed is saying, hold on, we need to see more information before we make that move. And he's like, no, you do this or I'm going to fire you, kind of thing. I don't even know if he can. I'm not sure, but I would assume he has power over some of that. But one thing I've said throughout my time on YouTube is that we do not want to see our politics getting involved in the Fed at all, in my opinion. But unfortunately, they have. And going back to 2021, back when the rates late in the year really should have been rising at that time, they kept them where they were and didn't raise them. And then they waited a few extra months, and that really was a problem, in my opinion. That was a problem that created more inflation. We let it go too long, and then it kind of like was almost spiraling out of control. And unfortunately, that's the way that went. I think it was a political move to say, hey, we want to keep the economy rolling, so don't raise those rates. We'll be fine, kind of deal. Okay, so now you got the opposite happening. Hey, I want these rates lowered, from the administration. And well, the only thing that I can say positive about that is at least it's out in the open. It's not being done behind the scenes. At least it's right in front of everybody. Hey, I want these rates lowered. And, maybe he knows. Maybe the president knows that it would then hold the housing market up. It would keep things where they are, because if rates lower and you've got more inventory, I think people would jump into the market a little bit more. Right now, that's not happening. And I think that the Fed probably needs to keep on their run. They're not going to listen. They're just not going to listen. And I think the more that you have somebody like Trump pounding on an institution like the Fed saying, I want you to do this, the less likely they're going to do anything. Okay. They're just not going to do it. But that is what's rocking the stock market this morning. And I want to say that another piece of news that was out there was, the Pope passed away. So yeah, sorry to see that. I know a lot of people care about the Pope, and especially after Easter, right after Easter. What a wild thing to have the Pope pass away. I don't know what that means, other than that's sad and somebody has passed away that people care about a lot. So that was in the news. So kind of a crazy news morning. Again, I one thing I want to focus on is, where are your buyers coming from? I'm going to jump back into really talking to you sellers. Where are your buyers that are out there coming from? They're coming from California. A lot of them. That's been always the way it is in Las Vegas. And what's happening there is a similar story, maybe a touch more problematic, although they have such a huge economy there, and a lot of people can come from all over California, parts that might have better real estate markets than others. And they're coming here. That's really a big part of what you can expect when you're a seller that who might be buying your property, right? Well, they're having a similar inventory hangover over there. And, that's who your buyers are. So you could see where the train might be getting held up at the station if you're waiting on a buyer from California to sell their property, and they're having to lower their price until it makes sense finally for somebody to buy it. And that could take a period of time. And then they finally come over here, and then they get to purchase your property. That's when it's such a large percentage of our buyers that are coming from California. That's why it's important to make note of the fact that they have inventory issues over there. It seems like from what I've been seeing, and similar here, that really the upscale properties, the higher end properties are doing okay. They're selling. So some of you that might be selling a higher end property, when I look at the inventory there, it has definitely gone up. We're approaching 1,200 properties on the market, which for a while we weren't even over. For years. Really, we weren't over 1,000 properties on the market in the million plus territory, which we call the luxury market. But I would say that for those people, there's still that, those this California buyers, if it's one of those people that are selling a high-end property and deciding to come to Las Vegas, you might be not waiting so long on your buyer. It just depends on your property, obviously, if you've got a great one that everybody's looking for. So yeah, California, similar issues there. Let's see what else I got for you. Now, I'm just gonna exit here with this thought that I mean, I could really go on about a few different things, but one thing I'm gonna say is that change is exciting for me. Okay, that's why I'm jumping on and telling people about what I'm seeing and talking about it, because this is a different market than I've seen in past springs for quite some time, and I just think the change is very exciting. Um, for me to be able to bring you something that isn't the same old, that's always fun. What could this mean in the long run? If you see prices soften enough, if things actually throughout 2025, we see a bit of a struggling real estate market here, certainly compared to last year's, the last years prior, then you could start to see that it gets in the zone for people as far as prices are concerned that have been priced out. And if eventually the Fed decides, you know what, inflation is tamed and now we can lower interest rates, start lowering interest rates, then you would start to see that a market that might be more affordable for people ahead. So are we going through, some growing pains that ultimately will mean a better market ahead with more volume of sales? That very well could be what's happening. I on my, if I want to, if I'm going to say as positive as possible, which I am, I'm going to say that is what I hope is happening. I don't want to see people lose money on their property, especially people who recently bought, say, in the last year, and now are, you know, maybe some of that equity starts to slide the other way a little bit. But if those people are not moving anywhere for a little while, the ones who bought recently, then maybe you're going to be just fine in the long run if the market picks up to where people can afford it. And interest rates are going to be a big part of that. So let's see what happens. I will keep bringing to you what I'm seeing, and of course my experience and knowledge throughout the many years that I've been in real estate in Las Vegas. I hope that helps you understand where we are, and what forces that are happening and how they're changing our market and what that means for you. Right now, if you've been wanting to get in and buy, you're going to have more inventory, and you're going to have a lot of opportunity to get a better deal, to strike a good deal, something you can feel very good about going forward with one of these sellers out there. I think that's definitely in the cards for you. If you're a seller, just make sure, look, maybe the market has been very good to you in the last several years, and maybe you didn't get in at the very tippy top. We just passed that. That's probably very likely for a little while that we have just passed the height of the market in Las Vegas, Nevada. But you still have a great opportunity to sell your property at a good price, especially if you've had it for years. Just set your expectations properly. Listen to your real estate agent. If I'm that agent, please, I hope that I'm able to help you and see what exactly we're dealing with, and get your property sold. Get out and make a deal on a new property when you're ready. If you're doing a sell buy, if you're selling and then buying, wherever you're going, I think on the buy side, you're going to have a great opportunity. So get your sale done. Don't worry about it. Get it done. All right. All right, folks, that's what I got for you today. Thank you for hanging out with me. And You Know How, that's my website, youknowhow.com. Check me out there. And of course, anytime you need to get a hold of me, my number is 702-461-7175. I'm Rob Howe, and now you know how to sell or buy a home in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thanks for joining me. Have a great week, everybody.